Before the show starts, again, just like to say a big thank you to the sponsors, Air Canada Cargo, ATC Aviation, Bombelli, Cool Dolly and Cool Storage Solution, Etihad Cargo, and Sarco Airport Equipment. Thank you all so much. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues, and listeners, here we are again. We've got another session on the Pharma Digital event, and I'm so pleased to have three great characters from the industry with us. And I'd like to introduce them now to you. So first and foremost, we've got Trevor Caswell, who's the Manager, Demand and Product Development Cargo from Edmonton International Airport. Trevor, welcome on board, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And then we've got Andrea Gruber, Head of Special Cargo from IATA. Andrea, lovely to have you as always on the show. Really appreciate it. And I love the backdrop. Shows how important all those books are. Really like it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. And last but by no means least, the man who's known as the rock star of cargo, the big boy from Brussels, Stephen Polmans, who's Director Cargo and Logistics Brussels Airport Company and also Chairman of TIACA. Stephen, as always, great to have you on.
Our pleasure is mine, and look forward with the rest of the panelists to have a nice discussion.
Yeah, we will, I'm sure. We will, I'm sure. Right now, just to get everybody warmed up and to let everybody know who's who, what I'd just like you to do, please, is if each of you can just let me know what you do, what your functionality is, and how this last 6 to 9 months has affected you and your business. So, Trevor, can we kick off with you, sir?
Sure, great. Yeah, well, thank you for having me, and a pleasure to be here today with everyone. So my role with Edmonton Airport, as you said, I work on the demand side, business development side for the cargo team. A lot of my time is spent in temperature control, perishable, pharma, logistics. So I lead the CIV development here at EIA for the airport, and enjoy working with everyone on the panel here today as well. The last, geez, where do you start? The last few months. I won't use the terms everyone knows, but it's been strange. It's been interesting. It's been a roller coaster. I think the new way that we're used to working, part of it will probably be here to stay. Some for the good. Some, we'll go hopefully back to our normal or new normal soon. It's been interesting working from home this entire time. Again, the roller coaster it's been, the unknowns, and I think some of the dark days are behind us, hopefully. And I'm looking forward to the future and vaccine distribution and getting back to a new norm in our industry.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate it. And Andrea?
Yeah, again, thank you for the invitation. So within IATA Cargo, I'm actually responsible for all the regulations related to transport of live animal, pharmaceutical, and perishables. As well, those are the standards that are actually the backbone and the foundation of the CIV programs, whether it's pharma, fresh, and live animals. And for sure, being in the standard development, the transport of vaccine is something we're heavily involved in, looking at industry working together to ensure that future distribution. So since March, I mean, we're already 9 months in that crisis, and we've actually started raising awareness back in June with the challenge of the upcoming distribution of vaccines, and how, as an industry, we will need to look into what is at stake, what needs to be considered, and since then heavily involved in coordinating the effort with a number of key stakeholders within the supply chain. So it's keeping us very busy. And within IATA, we have a lot of advocacy role as well, working with governments, especially in that context of the issue of, well, I'm sure we'll tackle about it, capacity, connectivity, making sure those planes are back in the air as soon as possible to get aviation back into business.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for that. And Steve?
Yeah, well, we have the benefit in Brussels that as cargo team, we manage the complete operations, including, for example, real estate. We have a dedicated P&L. So for us, the whole cargo activity is like a separate business. And since day one, we have not seen any drop in activities. On the contrary, yeah, with the opportunity, we have been focusing on pharmaceuticals basically 10 years ago when we started the cargo business unit. Since then, we have also been in contact with Andrea on what we could do together. So this is for us also a unique opportunity to use all that knowledge and all that experience and contact with the different shippers to play an important role in this whole COVID distribution. It started with the PPEs, and then it was really day-to-day management. But for the last few weeks and even months, it was preparing ourselves and the whole community for what is going to happen. And besides that, I've spent quite some time on TIACA. We started a transformation project before COVID. We didn't want to stop it, but also COVID gave us as TIACA an opportunity to be relevant again. And so we also did not want to miss that momentum, because I think for the whole industry, COVID, it creates a momentum. It's our choice to grab it or not to grab it, but to show the value and the importance and the capabilities of what we as an industry can do. So I mean, if you give me an opportunity, rest assured that I'll take it. That's what we did.
Yeah, and we know that only too well. But seriously, one of the things that you touched on there, you're talking about going back a decade. You know, you're talking about capabilities. I think the whole world now is looking at the supply chain and logistics with an interest and an understanding and awareness that they never had before. So we've all been talking at various times about how important cargo is and why don't we get the front seat every now and again, or the spotlight. Well, we're truly under it now. So can I just ask you, the TIACA and Pharma Aero, do you just want to let me know a little bit more about that, please, Steve?
You talking about a Sunrise project?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Of course, we are also a member of Pharma.iro and TIACA as well. And during one of the seminars, the question was raised at a certain point saying, how can we prepare as an industry if we don't know what's going to happen? How do we get information from the shippers so that we can prepare? And somebody indeed dropped a message, shouldn't that be something for TIACA to tackle? Again, you don't have to say it twice to me. So I said, absolutely, let's have a look at that. And at the same time, we learned that Pharma.io was basically doing the same, seeing what they could do to get information. So for us, it was very easy. When we talk about uniting the industry, working together, collaboration, we think it would be stupid to set up different projects with the same aim. So we quickly said, let's form a task force and see what we can do to get the clarity and the transparency we all want in order to prepare ourselves to the industry. And let's also give to the pharma industry the information that probably they don't know about on what we need. Because there is also a misunderstanding from their side. So creating more awareness on both sides will only help us to be better prepared, and it will help them to have a more reliable industry supporting their needs. That was the basic idea. So we have a joint task force. If you want more about that one, talk to Trevor. He's a member of that one, so he can go more in depth on what we are doing. And this is an initiative that we see next to the one that IATA is doing. And for us, ultimately, and what we've always said is that this is not a competition. This is not one organization against the other. This is not one group against the other one. This is not one airport against the other one. This is something where we as an industry are going to win, or where we as an industry are going to lose. And that should be the only objective for us. And that's the whole ambition.
Yeah, no, that's well said. And part of keeping together and giving information, even though as an industry we don't know what we don't know yet, because there's an awful lot of information and specifics that need to come from the pharma producers, etc., and with the vaccines more importantly. So we're waiting for that, but everything that we do in preparation is so important. And Andrea, last weekend's distribution of the IATA guidelines, I mean, that was a big step and a big welcome. It was really I think received very well. Do you want to just give us a little bit of an overview of what's included?
Sure, thank you, and I agree with what Stephen was doing. I think every organization is stepping in trying to get and gather the information that then is shared, and wherever we can use the network, and that's what is important in order for that information to be then communicated further. So I think the more networks we have, the better the information can be spread around. And so actually, the fact that IATA's advocacy role led really as well many government and international regulatory bodies to facilitate the movement of air cargo, we looked at the supply chain and say, okay, what are the main considerations that needs to be taken into account when we are facing the challenge of the large volumes of vaccine distribution. I mean, our industry has been transporting, handling pharmaceutical and vaccines in the past. There are vaccine programs that are already in place. However, are we ready for the upscale of that potential increase of volume? And the idea behind is, okay, we have information from the supply chain. We know what are the regulatory constraints. How can we put that all together? And the document is really setting a number of consideration and understanding a little bit the roles and responsibilities that one will have to take, or consideration one will have to really look into, whether they are on the manufacturing side, on the logistics side, on the transport side, but especially as well on the governmental and on authority side. Because yes, there are a number of uncertainties today. We're waiting for the pharmaceutical companies to tell us what to and the requirements, but it's as well very important for the shippers, pharmaceutical companies, authorities, and governments to understand what are the opportunities within the supply chain, and especially what are the constraints within the supply chain. And by marrying these information available to everyone, I think there is a better way to mitigating the potential risks and understanding what is at stake during the different segments. So we are actually tackling the aspect of safety, security, government and authorities, especially customs, operational as well aspect, and digital. Those are the areas that we are looking into. We have a number of organizations that are contributing. We started in this first edition with the humanitarian agencies, WCO, WTO, ICAO, the World Bank, and we're expecting a second edition to be released in the next 2 weeks with additional information, and whatever information is missed or information that everyone needs to be aware of. That's where we're contributing as a communication channel and include that into that document. And in any case, that's been shared as well with the pharma.io to have their input and amongst the Sunrise project to have the input, what is to be completed, enhanced, and how can we together ensure that everyone is ready, aware, and prepared of what's coming along.
Yeah, no, indeed. And part of this, again, to use one of these probably overused words and words that everybody likes to challenge and test, but collaboration. Trevor, one of the things that I've always believed in, and you know, I've always watched what Stephen was doing in Brussels and with great admiration, but I always felt that airports should be taking more of a central role in their own ecosystem and helping and supporting, especially obviously on the cargo side, but now more than ever. Now, as far as task forces, another term, we've got task forces everywhere: government, carriers, airports, GHAs, regulators, representative bodies, charter brokers, LCCs, last milers, storage, capacity, etc. There's a task force for everything. But why is it so important to address things centrally and with an airport, overview perspective on it?
No, for sure. And I promise I won't try and use any of those terminologies through my
No,
explanation.
I'm only putting it out.
Really, I mean, the role for the airport is a centralized community for communication, movement of cargo, passengers. I think really, you know, when we started the project Sunrays and working with Shanghai Airport and Brussels, as well as our friends at TIACA, you know, I didn't know, I think we really didn't know what we were in for. When I say that, I think, you know, naturally, one of the biggest goals is to come together and work together as partners through the supply chain. Every part of the supply chain, we need to know what everyone's doing, what everyone's responsible for. That hasn't been yet fully determined because the vaccine distribution, you know, hasn't initially started globally just yet on a large scale, as we anticipate it will in the next few weeks. So when we look at what the task force can do, specifically with Project Sunrays, is to provide an environment where we're delivering good information, correct information, reliable information from the sectors, and that's everyone from the pharmaceutical companies all the way down to the companies involved in the last mile. Again, ground handling, airports. Every part of the sector will not be the same. Here in North America, we'll obviously have our challenges, where in Europe and Asia and different continents will have their own challenges. But we also have some specific goals and tasks in the supply chain that are critical for the temperature range and ensuring the product gets to the people and as quickly and safely as possible. So I think when we really break it down, the goals is, you know, from the project and from an airport's role, is to provide good information, accurate information that provides benefits and gives, you know, some good, obviously some good intent to give people a better understanding of what's going on. But ourselves, as day-to-day things are changing, you know, there's new information coming out that we'll have to deal with. And I think our goal at the end is to unite together in a supply chain. The supply chain has changed.
Yeah.
The necessary means, what happened years ago, when we look back at, you know, protection, being protective in keeping information, you know, not sharing information, that has gone away. That can't exist. That doesn't work in today's reality, especially in the COVID vaccine as it comes together. So the challenges are real. We know that not all the news that we provide is positive. Some of the aspects of the project we're learning are the companies closer to some of the pharma companies right now feel better suited, that they're prepared. Being prepared in the supply chain, are we prepared as an industry? I think that is something that will gain momentum as we move closer to distribution, but there's still a lot of unknown answers and uncertainties out there. So again, the goal is to bring partners together and share good information that is valuable.
Yeah, I think the results of the survey, which if you looked at it initially, you'd be thinking, oh my goodness me, they're not prepared. They're not going to be able to accept it. But I think that was a reality check, and it was also the catalyst to bring people together and learn from it. And, you know, God bless the scientists. They've done miracles by bringing the vaccines forward as far as they have. And then as soon as Pfizer came out, fantastic, great Monday motivational, magical news. But then as soon as it came out, people saying, yeah, but how are they going to now manage it with the excessive, you know, temperature ranges that have to be controlled? Then you got Moderna coming out, little bit better news, little bit more flexible to what we're used to. Then Oxford and AstraZeneca, even better. And obviously you've got Sinovac, and you've got Sputnik 5, and you've got many others that are going to come on. So the solutions for all of the nations, subject to the affordability and also the accessibility, is going to work well. Again, provided everybody works together and shares all that information. So, sorry. Yeah, away you go, Trevor. Sorry.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think, you know, as the distribution, as every sector, as every company, as every part of the world rolls that out, we're going to learn very quickly what our roles are and what the challenges are and what the real needs will be for the distribution. So right now it's mostly in theory, but I think that's going to come very quickly, and we're going to learn very quickly, and hopefully still come together and unite as we have as an industry. And then look back at this, I think 2020 will be under the microscope, but I hope as an industry too, we look back and the lessons learned, again, won't use too many terms, but that we keep some of these positive changes in check and going forward in the supply chain for vaccine distribution and temperature and pharma in general. So.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
And Chris, if I may, just on what you were just saying, and I think one key element is to take into account is the fact that, I mean, yes, there are 13 vaccines that are in phase 3 right now, which will require different temperature ranges. Will have to meet some specifics, but I think it's not just one vaccine. There is multiple vaccines for multiple purposes with multiple requirements. So we are going towards a complexity, but a diverse supply chain as well. And this is where I think, as much as we see a huge something coming up that will be huge, I think we need as well to scale it to the fact of what will be the needs, what will be the country's needs, how can actually the destination countries distribution center be able to handle as well such type of products, whether it's on the temperature, whether it's on the storage capabilities, and the transport might have to adapt as well to the needs of destination. And so there are a lot of uncertainties, but there are a lot of elements that as well bring a level of complexity, because I think and I believe we will see different type of supply chain moving along as we come closer to a number of vaccines that will be made available.
Yeah, no, I agree. And obviously some of them have already started to be moved. So some have gone from China to South America. We've seen some go via Istanbul. Yeah. So people are starting to do things. So I think the message of do fast, learn faster, but do it together. And that's obviously where people are going to be looking to the likes of yourself, Andrea, you, Stephen, you, Trevor, with the various chairs and organizations and representative bodies. It's so important. Now, Stephen, one of the things I've always thought, and we've spoken about it several times, about this, data sharing. And obviously data is like the new gold or oil. It's so important, but it's only important when it's shared. And I think an analogy, I'm not sure, I think we said it at one of the conferences, was what's the point of having lots of money in your pocket if you never take it out and spend it? And, this knowledge needs to be shared. Now, you've been a fantastic example of sharing, even the youngsters that you've put through in your organization, giving them so much responsibility early. It's a great thing to share because you then start feeling part of a team. Are you seeing now that the industry is all starting to come together and this care culture is something that we should all be proud of?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and it's something I feel happy about and also a concern at the same time, because once again, we are doing what we are really good in. If it's really necessary and if really something from outside is pushing us to the limits, we are again showing as an industry what we can do. We come together, we don't know the answers, we are vulnerable, we show our weaknesses, but we sit together, we work together, we overcome boundaries to make this happen. But we need like this urgent crisis to do it. The concern is always, why do we not do it for the normal change our industry needs? Because the world is changing. And for one reason or the other, we always need to feel that urgent pressure as an industry to actually do what we should be doing, maybe at a lower pace, but what we should be doing all the time. So I really and sincerely hope what Trevor also said is that after this crisis, that we have learned from it, that we have seen to what magnificent things we are capable of, and that we build on it. I do believe, however, that a few things that were going slow, that COVID will give it a push. A lot of initiatives will help us to at least make a jump to a new level, a higher level, which will be the new base level. I don't think we will ever go back to how we have been doing things a few years ago. For example, we have been talking already for longer time, also data sharing on pharmaceuticals, to have really full insight in everything what we do, where the pharmaceuticals are, the temperatures, the checklist, all in one shared data platform. And we were making good progress on it. But thanks to COVID, we are now going live with it much quicker and on a broader level than expected. So that even means that after COVID, we're going to have this tool and we are going to continue using it for pharmaceuticals. And it is this kind of initiatives and this kind of speed up of processes thanks to COVID that I really think will bring us to a higher level and a new base from where we start.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Well put. And it's funny how, you know, if you look back over the decades, we had a decade where everybody focused on quality, TQM, ISO, etc. Then we had a decade where everybody was focusing on costs. Then it was on controls, and now this one we're in now. I mean, this year has almost been like a decade itself with the enhancements, with digitization, and now sustainability is, you know, is something that everybody's got to look at from just the continuity of their business plus the environment. But taking all of that into account, Trevor, okay, with regards now to the decrease in passenger capacity, and now we're all talking about vaccines, but obviously the pharma industry still has to supply everybody with the vaccines and all the other products that they needed anyhow. But now we're going to have displaced cargo and the capacity isn't coming back in time. You know, there's something that we need to also give a message out, which is that, you know, traveling and flying is one of the safest things that you can do. So the quicker we get people back on, you know, with confidence, the better for everything, because it's also going to reflect on the overall supply chain.
It is, and I agree 100% with you, Chris. And you know, to Stephen's comments as well. You know, one of the initiatives we're doing here, and going back to your question around how an airport plays a role in our community, is providing the ability to give that trust back to the passenger and ensure that when they do travel, it is safe. So providing a safe environment right from when they step out of their vehicle into the airport, through security, onto their plane, we want to ensure them that safety is critical and top of mind. And then again, when they return. So that's something that our airport is spending a lot of time investing in and bringing the feeling around being safe back to. If we think of when we went through this, you know, concern with security, if we go back a number of years and changes in security and how we adapt, I think we're going to go through that again, you know, from a passenger standpoint around safety in airports and airplanes. There's lots of questions that will be raised around the cleanliness and you know, parts at an airport will now have to play to ensure passenger travel. And then in the reduced capacity, how an airport now has to diversify itself and offer various different types of services and needs that maybe weren't there prior. So I think the, you know, to go back, our roles as airports will play a vital, we need to get people traveling again. We need to communicate the information that everyone knows here is true, that how safe air travel is, and ensuring people can get back on an airplane and travel once again to get our industry numbers back up, cargo volume back up where it needs to be.
Yeah, and increase the capacity. Now something that I've been really impressed with is the way that airports are starting to communicate with each other. So it's a little bit like, you know, when you go on a road trip and you come into a new town and you see it's twinned with, and you always wonder what on earth twinned with means. But it's nice now to see that airports are actually sharing, and, you know, you've got community platforms, you've got all of the USPs that people are starting to look and learn from each other, which I think is such a positive thing.
It really is. And, you know, when we talk about some, you know, I'm an optimistic person to begin with, but I think we really need to look for the positives that this COVID pandemic will shape for our world going forward. I think, you know, as technology, data, the roles airport plays, every aspect around travel, cargo is changing. And some of that is here to stay, and some of it will revert back to what it was. But we hope for the majority that the positive outcomes of this whole pandemic, this global pandemic, are here to stay.
Yeah, and Stephen, you must be pleased. I mean, you've almost been doing a roadshow, but you must be pleased now with how other airports have come to you and you've been able to help, and the way everybody else is helping each other.
But absolutely, yeah, and I think that we have said from the beginning, it's about a supply chain, and I really felt from the beginning, if there is somebody in our industry, and I'm not talking about the organizations and associations, who should be looking at making the cake bigger rather than fighting for that slice of cake, I think airports are a natural partner for that, because we already manage a community. And there is so much we can learn. I also believe that if you really improve, you need to leverage solutions on a global level, because if we all develop our own solution, we are not improving the industry, you are not being efficient. Because one of the things you just said, we have had a decade of cost saving, a decade of quality. But if you look, for example, at data sharing and the data, the technology, it includes everything, because data sharing results in more efficiency, it results in a better quality, it results in happier customers. So for me, this data sharing and this technology brings everything together, and it's like the glue between all these different elements. And if you can do that on a global scale and with different partners and as an industry, okay, there is more food for everybody. And the more money, Chris, you have in your pocket, the more we can spend together.
Yeah, yeah. So they say. I'm looking forward to having the chance to do so, Stephen. But you're 100% right. Now, Andrea, sorry, something that the lads were talking on there, and I think it was Trevor mentioned about, safety, and then we're talking about security. Now, lots of people have suddenly started to realise that vaccines are valuable, and to dispel any concerns. The industry has been dealing with vulnerable goods and valuables for a long time. So whether the pipeline or the corridors, open up and people start to be worried about it, they've got no reason to worry, because we've managed to do it for so long and under guidelines and procedures that you're well aware of.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, the aspect of transporting a vaccine in a safe and secure environment will be critical. I think the lessons learned with the PPE or out of a sudden that became gold for a lot of people, a lot of country, even needed to be escorted from the airplane out. I think when we talk about valuable goods, yes, our industry has been transporting valuable goods, has been transporting vaccines in the past. There are security measures that are in place. I think what they will need what needs to be done is to reinforce those, and especially work closely with the authorities, work closely with the different partners in place, and as well within an airport, with the different stakeholders involved to understand and making sure that valuable product remain secure from thefts, tampering, contraband, and so on. I think security has always been high on everyone's agenda, and it will continue. It will be reinforced measures that are actually already in place. But for sure, I think today the situation of getting that vaccine to certain destinations, who is going to get it first, and that's going to be on another level, and it's where hopefully and what I would like to see is that we don't see government moving towards nationalism of stock, pressurizing the airlines and the stakeholders to guarantee access to goods for their own people, because I mean that's as well another critical aspect that might come into the picture, because at the end of the day, the goal is a fair distribution of the vaccine everywhere. Maybe that's utopist, but I think that's the goal we need to reach for.
Yeah, we're all safe when we're all safe. Again, just on that, you mentioned about PPE and especially the masks. I mean, when you look at how there was, 10 times an increase in price in masks, but then the sad thing was many of them didn't come up to standards, and they're still sitting in warehouses now all over the world. So that standard is going to be so important moving forward, and counterfeit. So that's something that everybody's got to be aware of as well. So not just security, but counterfeit for some of the materials that are needs, you know, to actually give the inoculations, but also the vaccines themselves. So collectively, the community has to ensure that security as well.
Yeah, and you're right, absolutely right. And we just heard that, you know, it's already starting. Counterfeit vaccines and medication has been around. Unfortunately, there will always be people trying to take advantage of such situation, and I think it's where the digital aspect is critical. Being able to track and trace, to being able to ensure to monitor those shipments, ensuring that this data is shared amongst the stakeholders. Traceability will be a key in order to at least minimize those the risk or mitigate those risks. And for sure, and I can only agree with what Stephen and Trevor were mentioning beforehand, is the fact that there's been some acceleration in the digital world, but I think it's the focus on the traceability that will be very important to ensure that those security measures are reinforced, and data, whether how they are put in place. Even, I mean, manufacturers have already today with their medication, serialization is something that is in place in order to trace their materials, and I will continue, and that's along the digital supply chain.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it's
Chris, maybe if I can add something on what you said on that whole PPE, I'm going to call it the PPE circus of a few months ago.
indeed.
And I agree with you that there's always people trying to abuse the system, and there are stocks that were not okay, and countries that did make big orders, paid for them, never got anything. But what I really believe for us as an industry, that whole exercise is going to be so valuable today, because there we learned with a commodity that was important, but not on the same level as we now have at the vaccines. We have learned how to open quickly countries that were closed. We have learned how to increase capacity with passenger aircraft that we never did before. And this has learned us in a new normal that makes me feel, what you said earlier, I'm not worried about capacity for the moment, because there are so many aircraft on the ground and so many airlines have learned what they need to do to operate them as a cargo plane. Without that whole March, April circus, I'm going to say again, we would not have gained that experience that is going to be so important and valuable in the weeks and months to come.
Yeah. Can I ask you, yourself and Trevor, with regards to airports and just using airports as one member of the team, if you look back at the PPE, it caught everybody out. Okay, there was very few people that could sit back and say, do you know something? We have a mitigation, we have a risk assessment, and we always just in case, etc. Because everything was just in time. Now, from an airport perspective, are you looking at things differently now with your procurement and your just in case stock levels, and how that forms part of business continuity moving forward?
Yeah, I'll start, Chris. Yeah, most definitely. I think our business, you know, how we reacted to the PPE for sure taught us how we need to be as proactive as we can, but more reactive as an airport community to handle the influx. You know, here in Edmonton, we were one of the busiest cargo airports across Canada with wide bodies coming in. And one thing that we did learn is how the airport community, even competitors locally here on airport, come together and work together naturally for the betterment of ensuring the you know, receiving PPE and getting it out as quickly as possible to everyone. So I think business has changed. It'll continue to change. The airport here is going through a massive digital transformation, sharing good information. Again, digital information, good information, accurate information is key around security, timeliness, handling, temperature. Everything is driven through the information that we receive digitally. And what we did learn from the PPE movements, our CIV community here will take that, and it'll definitely play a role in how we handle the vaccines when they come through our airport.
Okay, very good. And Steve?
Yeah, it's a bit the same, and I think also that countries will we will never have a PPE mask crisis again, because everybody is going to be less depending from one source. So that I know for sure. But there will be an oil crisis in future. Let's not be blunt on that one. And the next crisis will be again something new. But what we have learned from it, I think will help us. And I really believe, like Trevor said, especially on the digital, I really think that the next few months is going to bring us to a higher level, and we are just going to be better trained to handle the next crisis. And the stronger we are, the less crises we will have, because what will be a crisis of the past will be something that we can handle easily once we are better trained and better equipped and working better together. So I really believe that COVID-19 will be something that, from a personal point of view, is not fun. For a lot of economies, it's not fun. But I think for the air cargo specific, I don't think we are going to look back at this as a negative experience. I think it's going to be a very useful and learning experience for us.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's why I was saying, I think in this 1 year, we're going to get 10 years worth of input and improvements and learnings, which is incredible. Now, something you touched on there, Stephen, about risk and limited sources. I think that's something that's so important moving forward, because for anybody that's working in risk, you can't have such limited sources for anything. And I think the good thing now with the different vaccines, everybody's focusing on a vaccine, so they don't want to be caught short where there's only one or two options for the vaccine. So I think that's also really important, and the hidden messages behind it will help businesses in the future.
Yeah, and for me, that is again also linked to the whole sustainability that we need to move to. I think that people are suddenly talking about we want to be less depending on one source. We need to be self-sustaining. This is all part of sustainability and about your economical model. And I think that where pre-COVID, we still had to explain that sustainability was not just environmental, but more than that.
Correct.
I think it has also created, again, awareness of the importance of sustainability for the ecosystem as an airport, for companies, but also for our day-to-day life. So we will forget, and the new generation will think things are normal. But like you said, I think you said, I was going to say 5 years, but you made me feel 10 years older in 1 year, but I can accept that. And I think it's a fair comment.
Yeah. And the beard helps with that being acceptable there, Stephen. It's a good addition, my friend. And it shows what working from home does, huh?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Now, Andrea, just one thing I'd like to say, and people have touched here on learning from the security examples, previously. But one of the things that was a hangover from the security is people would turn up at airports and you take your shoes off at one, your belt off at another, your watch off, your laptop out, your laptop in. And people would be thinking, well, why is it so different when I get on an aeroplane to when I get on a different aeroplane in a different airport? So that consistency is something that's going to have to sort of come in to the framework as well now, with everything that we do from a sanitization, hygiene, and also now with vaccines and everything else. How do you think we're going to deal with that?
But I think harmonization, standardization is something that we're all keen on looking into, and I think all of us, if we're as individuals or when we're travel, and for sure different measures, different situations at different countries. I think where IATA is playing a key role is as well the work that is being done, and let's just go back on what is important: getting those flights back up, getting those passengers be reassured, having a global testing for passengers before they board a flight. And this is the work we are doing with ICAO as well. And I think that collaborative approach with the appropriate authorities, governments, in order to find uniform approach to the different processes, because you can't expect then to have multiple processes, because that's where in a situation of crisis right now, people would not understand. And this is where ICAO, the work with CART, and that's where getting those uniformity is really, and standardized procedures are critical. There will be some disparity, and we see it even on the lockdown measures in Europe from one country to another, which is very different, even within a country. And I'm here in Switzerland. Even within Switzerland, we have different measures depending on if you're on the French part or the German part. But I think everyone is in such situation looking for some standardization, and that's where we are playing and we are engaging with the appropriate authorities and governments to really ensure that uniformity to take place.
Yeah, no, exactly. Very, very important. Now, guys, as we're coming to the end of the session, I've got a nice, easy question for you, each of you. If you had a magic wand, or you were able to have a wish list or whatever, there's 2 points. What do you think is necessary for everybody to start to do over the next 6 months to make everything more acceptable? And what positive lessons do you think should stay long beyond the successful vaccine program? So who'd like to start? Very easy. Give you a little like.
Okay,
we used to have a pantomime season here in the UK, and there was always the fairy godmother or someone who would give off wishes. So I'm trying to get into the festive season a little bit early. So who'd like to go? Just in principle, what really positive things do you think should stay afterwards? Because we've got rid of a lot of legacy of waste and admin and naysayers, but also what's really, really critical now for the next 6 months?
Well, I think what I would like to see is definitely, the business of aviation going back up full speed. That means everything that is leading towards that is as well, get rid of selfishness and making sure we are all reaching out for the same goal. I mean, the vaccine, having a vaccine that is performing the way it should be to reassure people on a day-to-day, being able to have all business up, no lockdowns, people are feeling comfortable to travel again, and those aircraft back in the air. That's my wish. And looking at the future, I think one aspect we talked about, and one of the key words was collaboration. But collaboration is nothing if there is no proper communication. And I think as an industry, we have accelerated as well the learning process of being able to work together, communicate. I would like to see that continuing. And the air freight business has really a key role to play today. I mean, cargo has been essential, and I would like to see as well cargo higher on the agenda on a lot of different companies, because today cargo made it happen, and cargo will make it happen as well.
Very well said. Very well said.
Maybe I'll go second, and I'll let Stephen have the final word. But just touching on Andrea, your points, wish would be for volumes to get back, flight activity to get back. But I think if we can look at it specifically, if the industry can understand how valuable cargo is in the role that it plays globally around carrier traffic and what that means for belly capacity, and so I think that could be something that I think is highlighted as an importance for the industry overall. If I could take one point that I would want the industry to learn, probably to accept digital technology and information. Our industry hasn't been the best at accepting a changing model, accepting maybe change in there. But I think digital, the technology, digital transformation is here to stay. So I hope that the industry is welcoming with that, and will embrace it going forward. Because if you don't accept the digital change, I don't know if your future in the industry will be as successful as companies or organizations that embrace it and understand it and use it to their advantage. So
yeah, and hopefully one thing I'd love to see is getting rid of the paper. And there's an old colleague, most of you know him, David Ambridge. If it was in the pantomime, he'd be the Dark Knight, and he'd be saying the paperwork's gone, and the crowd would be saying, no, it's behind you. So we need to get rid of that. So yeah, 100%, Trevor. Stephen?
Yeah, okay. I will also say something, Trevor, but I will leave the final word for Chris anyway, but I will say something. Andrea has been talking about aviation a bit, and I think from a personal point of view, aviation business, I have a lot of wishes. Honestly, when it comes to cargo, and we are very self-critical all the time, we are really good in complaining about everything and about ourselves. I think for once, I don't wish anything. I think we should enjoy. I think that what we have proven in the last few months is something to be proud of. If we see what we have done, the agility, the flexibility, the way we collaborated, guys, let's just enjoy about that moment of the spotlight that we got, because we did a great job, and we should be entitled to also enjoy it. So I don't wish for anything else than everybody to enjoy it. That being said, what should stay? And I've already mentioned it basically. What is the most important thing for me is I would so hard hope and wish that if we get out of this, that we stop acting only when we have this external enemy or when we have this external target being imposed on us, but that we do it because of the options and the possibilities to improve are there for everybody. And if we could do that, then it's going to be a great decade for air cargo.
Very well said, all of you. And I think do fast, learn faster, but do it all together and care. That's what people have seen from outside. I think they can see now there's a huge amount of confidence and credibility within our industry. And I think you're right, Stephen. We do bash ourselves quite a bit, even tongue in cheek about the paper. But what we've done and what we've achieved is incredible. And I think you'd all join me in recognizing the efforts of all the people on the front line, and especially now the people who are on the ramps and in the warehouses and in the transportation and everything to do with our industry. Fantastic. And it's with great respect and sorrow that anybody has lost anybody, and our thoughts are with them. And please God, also those that have been displaced because of the downsizing in the capacity in the airline and everybody else's business, please God, they'll get back to us quicker than they can ever imagine. Great confidence, lovely panel, superbly engaged, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.